If you want to understand the root cause of, why your team is failing, or maybe why a major personal project just completely collapsed, the answer might not actually be in some best-selling business textbook.
Right.
It might actually be hiding inside a 20-gallon glass box filled with water, some sand, and a single misplaced terracotta pot.
It's so funny how we constantly look to these massive sweeping narratives when we want to learn about patience or resilience or just managing unpredictable environments.
Yeah, totally.
Like we read the memoirs of visionary CEOs or, biographies of military strategists. We just sort of assume that profound wisdom requires this massive stage.
We want the loud, obvious lessons, right? The
Right.
macro view of human achievement.
Exactly. But um, sometimes the real insights, like the deeply practical truths about observation and empathy and patience, they come from these hyper-specific, entirely unexpected places.
Which brings us to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
Because today we are looking at a source that might seem incredibly niche on the surface, but it's just brilliant. We have this single journal entry from a dedicated hobbyist named Ang,
Right.
and it is titled Notes on Fishkeeping Part 290, Optimizing the Kribensis-Cichlids Mating Tank. And it was published on July 16th, 2026.
And yes, we are talking about fish today.
We are indeed.
Dwarf cichlids, to be exact. But hey, if you are listening to this right now and you're thinking, well, I don't own an aquarium, just stick with us. Because our real mission today isn't an aquatics lesson.
No, not at all.
We are decoding what this brief, highly specific journal entry teaches us about, iterative learning and respecting the environments we manage, and really the profound humility that's required when you're dealing with complex systems.
It really is a masterclass just hiding in plain sight. So, okay, let's unpack this. Before we even look at the specific fish or, the water chemistry or the tank itself, we have to talk about the scale of the observer's dedication.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that context frames the entire text. Look at the title again, Part 290.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't someone who just brought home a goldfish in a plastic bag yesterday. Ang is documenting a massive ongoing journey.
What's fascinating here is the sheer power of microjournaling in any practice. I mean, reaching entry number 290 requires this methodical discipline that most people simply don't apply to their hobbies or even their careers, to be honest.
No, they definitely don't.
Usually people start something new, they write down a few broad observations, maybe they snap some photos for social media.
Got to get the Instagram posts.
Right, exactly. And then they just stop tracking it once the novelty wears off.
Right.
They hit a plateau.
They hit the plateau and just coast. But Ang is treating this hobby with the rigor of the scientific method, like documenting tiny variables day after day, month after month.
It's impressive.
It reminds me of a software developer just tirelessly patching code over years, or a baker tweaking a sourdough starter.
Oh, the sourdough is a great example.
Right. Because with sourdough, you don't just dump flour and water in a bowl and magically get the perfect artisanal loaf. You have to adjust the hydration by like a single percentage point. You note the ambient temperature of the kitchen.
Yeah.
You observe the size of the bubbles in the dough. It is this relentless commitment to micro adjustments rather than grand overhauls.
Because in software or baking or fish keeping, grand overhauls usually just break the system entirely. When you change everything all at once, you have absolutely no idea what actually worked or what failed.
Because you've contaminated your own data.
Exactly.
If you change the lighting schedule and the brand of fish food and the water temperature all on a Tuesday,
Bad idea.
and then your fish die on Wednesday, you've learned absolutely nothing. You don't know which of those three variables was the fatal one.
You are left entirely in the dark. But by logging 290 distinct entries, Ang has basically created this localized database of knowledge.
Wow, yeah, localized database.
It's a highly controlled framework where a single really subtle adjustment can be isolated and observed and understood. It's the critical difference between guessing and knowing.
That's such a good point.
And if you are listening right now, just thinking about your own life or maybe the teams you manage, ask yourself, are you swinging for the fences every time, trying to reinvent the wheel when things stall? Or are you meticulously tracking the small variables, those tiny daily inputs, to see what actually moves the needle?
It's the unglamorous work that yields the glamorous results. And, this methodical discipline really sets up the specifics of what Ang is observing in this exact entry.
It does.
Because this is where we see a remarkably clear clash between human aesthetic desires and animal instinct. Ang is setting up a mating tank for these Kribensis cichlids, and they note making two very specific environmental changes.
Right.
First, using a softer, finer substrate at the bottom of the tank. And second, making a highly deliberate move with an artificial terracotta pot.
Let's actually break down those changes, starting with the substrate, because it highlights exactly why Eng's micro-adjustments matter so much. So substrate is just the aquarium term for whatever material lines the bottom of the tank. Gravel, sand, dirt, whatever.
Which, for most casual pet owners, is just like an aesthetic choice. You know, you buy whatever neon-colored gravel looks cool under the LED lights.
Yeah, the hot pink gravel.
Yeah.
But for Kribensis cichlids, the substrate is a matter of pure biology. These fish are often referred to as earth eaters.
With his fingers.
Yeah, they literally sift the sand through their gills to find microscopic food and to excavate pits for breeding. So if you put sharp, rocky, large-grain gravel in their tank, it physically damages their gills.
Oh, wow.
It completely shreds them. They can't perform their natural behaviors. So Ang switching to a softer, finer substrate isn't about making the tank look prettier. It's an anatomical necessity for the subjects living inside it.
Which leads right into the second change, which I think is the absolute crux of this entire journal entry.
Oh, for sure.
The placement of this terracotta pot. So Ang explains that previously, this pot was placed at the front of the tank. And the logic there seems incredibly obvious from a human perspective, right?
Of course.
You put the cool little artificial cave at the front so you can actually see your fish swimming in and out of it.
Right, you want to see them.
But Ang notes that these dwarf cichlids overwhelmingly preferred to hide at the back of the tank, behind the plants and the filtration tubes. Like, even though they would occasionally use the terracotta pot at the front for temporary shelter, their undeniable preference, just their default state, was to stay toward the back.
They were constantly fighting against the design of the environment.
Yeah. So for this new setup, this highly important mating tank setup, Ang decides to surrender. They take the terracotta pot and they move it all the way to the back of the tank, placing it right next to the coral in the most obscured spot.
Right.
But, I mean, I have to be honest, I want to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Look, we are talking about a glass box in someone's living room. Does moving a small clay pot a few inches from the front of the tank to the back of the tank actually matter that much?
Oh.
I mean, fish are adaptable, aren't they? Why not just leave the pot at the front, let the fish figure out that the front of the tank is perfectly safe because there are no predators in the living room, and, you know, keep the view nice for the person who actually paid for the tank and feeds them every day? Aren't we just sort of coddling the fish at a certain point?
I get that. That is the most natural human reaction.
Yeah.
We want the environment to serve our convenience, and we just assume the inhabitants will figure it out using our logic.
Right.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, what Ang is doing here is practicing the ultimate form of user-centric design, just applied to nature.
Yep.
And it comes down to evolutionary mechanics.
User-centric design for a dwarf cichlid.
Exactly. In the wild, dwarf cichlids are prey animals.
Right.
Their evolutionary instinct, which is baked into their DNA over millions of years, tells them that open space equals death. They are what biologists call cave spawners. They need an enclosed, highly defensible, dark space to breed successfully.
Oh, I see. So when Ang originally put the pot at the front, in the most exposed, brightly lit part of the glass box, it completely short-circuited their biological imperative to reproduce.
Precisely. You can't just tell a prey animal, hey, don't worry, there are no predators in this glass box.
Right, they don't speak English.
Exactly. You can't reason with their nervous system. They feel exposed, their stress levels spike, their immune systems drop, and they absolutely will not breed.
Wow.
Think about it in terms of human design. Like in product design or architecture or even structuring communication in a corporate team, you can build what you think is the perfect system. You can put the metaphorical terracotta pot right at the front. You can build a beautiful paved walkway right through the center of a college campus courtyard. But if you observe that the students are constantly walking across the grass on the edge of the courtyard, wearing a dirt path into the lawn because it's a more secure or direct route for them.
You don't build a bigger fence to force them onto your pavement.
Exactly. You pave the dirt path.
You pave the dirt path. I love that. You design for how the subjects actually behave, not how you wish they would behave.
Yes.
So Ang realized, my desire to see the fish is actively stressing the fish out. Their instinct to hide in the back is vastly stronger than the convenience of the artificial cave I provided in the front. So you just move the cave to where the fish actually want to be, next to the coral, in the back.
It requires checking your ego at the door. You have to admit that your original design was flawed because it's centered entirely on the observer, not the user. True optimization doesn't mean forcing your subjects to adapt to your convenience. It means listening to their behavior and designing the environment around their absolute comfort.
And this surrender of human preference isn't just about moving a clay pot, though. Like, it requires a massive amount of intellectual humility, which is exactly what Aang wrestles with at the very end of this journal entry.
Yeah, that ending's so interesting.
Because this meticulous attention to the softness of the sand and the exact placement of the cave isn't just standard hobbyist behavior. It is driven by the ghost of past failures.
Yes, the tone of the entry changes significantly in the final paragraph. It shifts from this logistical planning to incredibly cautious reflection.
Aang writes that right now, despite having this mating tank perfectly set up with the soft substrate and the rear-facing cave, they are just waiting. They are deliberately letting the aquarium environment, quote-unquote, settle before introducing the Kribensis-cichlid. And then they drop this line, which really hits hard. They say, my previous attempt at introducing one didn't end well. I'm not sure of the root cause, so I'll wait and see how things go first.
You're not sure of the root cause.
Yeah.
That parenthetical note changes the entire context of everything we've just discussed.
It is so remarkably raw. It didn't end well. You can just feel the heaviness of that phrase.
You really can.
I mean, anyone who has ever lost a pet or had a major initiative crash and burn at work knows exactly what that heaviness feels like. But it's the fact that they don't know why it failed that creates this heavy, almost paralyzing caution.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this, and it reminds me of walking into a room right after two people have had a massive, heated argument.
Oh, that invisible tension in the air.
Yes. You didn't hear the fight. You don't know what it was about. You have zero idea what the root cause of the anger is. All you know is that the environment in that room is currently volatile and highly toxic.
Right. And if you make a move.
Exactly. If you try to immediately jump in and force a conversation or make a joke to lighten the mood or try to fix it, you're probably going to trigger another explosion.
Yep.
You have to let that invisible tension dissipate. You have to let the room settle before you make a move.
That is a fantastic way to visualize it, because this raises an important question about how we handle uncertainty in closed systems. Whether we were talking about a fragile aquarium ecosystem, or a highly stressed team at a corporation, or a delicate personal relationship.
Yeah.
When you don't know the root cause of a past failure, your natural instinct is almost always to tinker.
We want to act. We equate action with solving the problem.
Exactly. We want to change the water, swap out the filter, host a sudden mandatory team-building retreat, force a resolution meeting. We just feel like if we are moving our hands, we are making progress.
Right, because sitting still feels like failing all over again. It feels negligent. I can only imagine the temptation Aang feels to just throw the fish in the tank and hope for the best is overwhelming, especially at part 290.
Oh, definitely. But Aang exercises incredible intellectual humility here. By saying, I don't know the root cause, they're openly acknowledging that the ecosystem is far more complex than their current understanding of it. In an aquarium, letting it settle usually means letting the biological water cycle establish itself. It takes weeks for beneficial bacteria to grow inside the filter.
Wow, weeks.
Yeah, weeks. And these are bacteria that naturally convert highly toxic ammonia from fish waste into harmless nitrates. If you rush that process, the water looks crystal clear to the human eye, but it is chemically toxic to the fish.
So by acting too fast, by putting the fish in before that invisible bacterial ecosystem has stabilized, you are basically guaranteeing another catastrophic failure, even if the tank looks perfectly clean.
And in those moments, the absolute best, a most strategic move you can make is extreme caution. It is stepping back. It is giving the environment the one thing we are usually terrified to give it, which is time.
Time.
Letting it stabilize on its own before introducing a new, highly fragile variable.
It's the profound wisdom of non-action, like letting whatever invisible bacterial imbalance or interpersonal tension or market volatility that might have caused the previous collapse just work itself out. And that takes tremendous discipline. You want progress. You want to see the fish swimming around the terracotta pot you just perfectly placed. But you wait.
Aang's restraint here is a masterclass in risk management. Because introducing the fish too early just to satisfy your own ego and your own desire for progress, I mean, that could lead to another failure.
Right.
And then you are still left without knowing the root cause, but now you have a second tragedy on your hands, which just further muddies the data. When in doubt, let the system settle.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you look closely enough at these hyper-specific, microscopic slices of life, they become universally applicable.
Absolute.
You don't have to be an aquarist to apply Eng's methodology. If you are prepping to lead a difficult boardroom meeting, or you're writing complex code, or you're just trying to manage a chaotic household, you are dealing with complex systems.
And in all of those systems, you face the exact same fundamental choices. Are you going to guess, or are you going to meticulously observe the tiny variables like a localized database?
Yeah.
Are you going to force a solution because you feel the anxious need to take action? Or do you have the discipline to let a volatile situation settle when you don't know the root cause of a problem?
And perhaps most importantly, are you willing to give up your human-centric convenience for the sake of what the environment actually needs to thrive? Empathy isn't just about feeling bad when things go wrong. It's about fundamentally understanding how others experience their environment and adapting your design to that reality. So, what does this all mean?
Well, it means the smallest environments hold the biggest truths, but only if you are willing to observe them without ego.
We usually look right past the glass box, trying to find wisdom in sweeping narratives and grand biographies. But maybe the problem is how we've designed our own boxes. Think about that terracotta pot. We all have one.
Yeah, we really do.
Look at your own life, your workspace, your daily routines, or just how you interact with your family or your team. What is your terracotta pot placed at the front? What is a system, a rule, or a routine you have stubbornly designed based entirely on how you wish things worked, or what is most visually convenient for you, rather than observing how you or the people around you actually naturally behave? Maybe it's time to pave the dirt path. Maybe it's time to move the pot to the back. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.